Welcome back to the show as we take a look at the election of 2013. Now only 94 days, 18 hours, 47 minutes, 46 minutes and 58 seconds to go. Deep breaths, everyone. It is time now to get fair dinkum with Sky News commentator Graham Richardson and Coalition MP Bronwyn Bishop. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice
Good
to
morning.
see you.
Nice to see you.
What is going on, Richo? Can
Not
you
much.
clarify everything for us?
The caucus is still in denial. Bill Shorten has not as yet moved. By the way, yesterday he changed his message on the answering machine, obviously under a bit of pressure. So the answering machine yesterday was saying, "I'm having a very rare public holiday day off with my wife and children." Now the next two words were not "rack off," but he did actually, really say to everybody, "Leave me alone."
Why were you calling him?
Well, he's a friend of mine, and I was just checking in to see how he was. When your mates are under pressure, you check in to see how they are.
Is his allegiance still with Julia Gillard?
Yeah. I don't think he's moved, although he must, like anyone with an IQ over 50 knows they have to move, and they won't. It's just this hatred of Kevin Rudd. That's what stops them, and yet they know they're going to lose their seats. I mean, even Bill, the latest poll with him, apparently did his own polling, even in his seat he's almost getting done. He's got a 16% head start. I mean, once you start to get those seats in, don't you realise this is a massacre?
She says she's not going to move, and you say she could become a Labor legend if she did so.
I've never said that.
Didn't you? That's what the Australian says this morning.
I don't think she'll ever be a Labor legend. I think if she moves, then at least Labor has a chance to stay in the race. They can't win the election, but at least they wouldn't get slaughtered, because there's no doubt Rudd will improve the vote. And it doesn't matter how hard those who have backed Gillard try to rationalise it and say, oh, Rudd wouldn't make any difference. The evidence mounts every day, every hour, every minute that he would make a difference. And still they remain defiant.
Mark Latham was on the ABC last night. This is what he had to say.
There's 3 years of concerted revenge. He knows that every day that he gets in the media cycle, he's knocking Gillard down a notch or two in the polls. This is a program, a jihad of revenge, the like of which we've never seen before in the history of Australian politics. And it goes beyond the normal human reaction of revenge. You're getting into the realm of evil here with Rudd, the realm of evil.
Richo?
Speaking of realms, I have not been a fan of Kevin Rudd's. I've bagged him personally a great deal, but if Mark Latham hates him that much, he can't be all bad. I'll have to re-examine my views. I'll go back and have another think about that one.
Now, Bronwyn, you've been sitting there very pleasantly. Because what do we do? What do we do here?
All she's got to do is watch. She doesn't have to do
from the sideline. From the sideline. Why aren't you further ahead?
Well, what a strange question.
Well, that's not strange, really. It's not strange when you consider that it's still relatively, there's still a remote chance, a 2% chance you could win.
58-42 is the latest poll.
I'm trying here, Richo. Give me a break.
I guess the most important thing to say is that as the election gets closer, it always tightens, and Richo will admit to that. So we don't take anything for granted. We're out there working every day. But when you see that degree of animosity and that degree of hatred, you know that they've got a lot of sorting out to do.
You've been preparing for Kevin Rudd to be leading the party?
Well, to us it really doesn't matter. And I think the Australian people just want to have an election. I went into the garage to get some petrol in the car the other day, and as I'm in the queue to pay, and a guy I know, he's a small businessman, he came out and he said, this election, he said, it can't come soon enough. He said, last week, business is down 25%. It's not just me, it's everybody else. So I guess the most important thing for us is if those independents would indicate they vote for a no-confidence motion, we could have an early election on the 3rd of August.
Normally, I'd agree with Bronwyn on this point about how things tighten in elections, but this one won't. And the reason it's different is that we've never had a Prime Minister who's just hated so much by so many people. And when you get to an election campaign, you're going to get wall-to-wall Julia Gillard on the television, not just in the Labor ads, but you'll get in the Liberal ads as well, because that's all they want to run as well. I would have thought things will get worse in the campaign for Labor, not better. OK, let's move on to other news. Indonesia has sent a message that they oppose the federal government's policy of turning the boats back. Bronwyn, well, it's not the federal government's policy, it's the opposition's policy. OK, Bronwyn, have you discussed that policy and turning back turning back the boats in Indonesia? Have you had any discussions with the ambassador at all?
Well, obviously, no, I haven't. But
the opposition?
The important thing is that we've said we'll turn the boats back when it's safe to do so. But most importantly, we'll introduce temporary protection visas. And that's one of the major planks of what worked last time, which means that if you come here and you're found to be a refugee, you can stay so long as it's not safe for you to go back. But when it becomes safe to go back, back you go, and there's no family reunion.
How's that going to work? How are you going to turn them back if Indonesia doesn't want to play ball?
Well, that's two parts of the policy. Turning the boats back is one part, temporary protection visas is the other.
How are you going to turn them back?
Well, turning them back is when it's sorry, safe to do so, utilising, obviously, our vessels that, as they did under John Howard.
Do you like that policy of turning them back?
Yes, I think it worked.
But how do you do it without having the cooperation of Indonesia?
Well, as we did before, the policy will work, but it's when it's safe to do so. So you just have to make that judgment when it's occurring.
Graham?
The votes will not be turned back. Indonesia's made that very clear. And while the opposition have sort of hinted that they're being told behind closed doors with a whisper that it'll be all right, it won't be all right. The Indonesians would not continue to make public statements about it if they really thought it would be all right. So that part of the policy is a joke. The other part, the temporary protection visas, that may well have some effect. Yeah. But will it stop the boats? Absolute Buckleys. These boats are not going to be stopped, and I think Australia is going to have to get used to this. Now, I don't think the coalition can stop them. Well, they'll reduce them, I have no doubt about that, but they won't stop them.
You'd be prepared to be on the record as saying you will stop the boats? Or
well,
is that
that's our
irresponsible?
policy. Our policy is to stop
So you're
the boats
prepared to say
going.
this morning, we will stop the boats?
Well, I'm prepared to say that our policy statement is that, and Tony Abbott takes our relationship with Indonesia very seriously and has said that his first visit will be, as should he be elected, is to Indonesia, to take it seriously.
Meantime, just quickly, we want to do this one before we go. The government is spending $500,000 on a TV campaign to stop Afghanis from coming here by boat. Here's a little bit of the campaign.
وقت مرکز نایرو نو جور شده بود و ما هم دو اونجوری کرد ماید باورم نمیشد خن از می رقم شد اما شد
Richard, what do you think? Does that work?
Well, I don't know as everybody in Afghanistan watches television all that much, so I think out there in the provinces there aren't too many TVs hanging around, so I'm not sure it'll have a massive effect. That'd be my view.
Bronwyn?
Well, I think it's a useful thing to do, but most importantly is to introduce the whole of the policy. It doesn't work in bits. And temporary protection visas with no family reunion, which is one of the major sugar on the table items, is most important to introduce.
Nice.
We could get out of Afghanistan. That might help too, you know. That might be better than the ads.
Richard, good to see you this morning, and I'm Bronwyn. Nice to have you on the show.
Great pleasure to be with you.